This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. What do you know about oil and natural gas? You likely associate them with running your car or heating your home. But these two natural resources fuel so much more than that. More than 6,000 consumer products that we rely on every day are made using oil and gas. Before you even step out the door in the morning, you've already used more products made possible because of oil and gas than you realize. From the toothpaste you brush your teeth with, the soap you washed your face with, and the sheets you slept on. Not to mention your makeup, contact lenses, clothes, and shoes. Oil and gas are vital parts of all these products and so many more. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now is Colonel John Mills. Colonel Mills is the author of two great books, The Nation Will Follow and The War Against the Deep State. He's a former director of cybersecurity policy, strategy, and international affairs at the U.S. Department of Defense, and he's served his country in four separate eras: the Cold War, the Peace Dividend, the War on Terror, the War in Chaos, and now the Great Power Showdown. I'm always gratified to have his opinion. He's one of the great geopolitical military thinkers in the country today. I'm hopeful that he will soon join this administration, but Colonel Mills, as always, we are honored to have you.
Roger, thank you. Absolutely, always an honor to be on your show.
So there's so many questions here, it's hard to know where to start, but let's start at the beginning. President Trump, in his remarks last night from the White House, standing astride the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State, announced that this strike, or these strikes, I should say, were completely successful. I read many various opinions of so-called military experts as to whether these 30,000-pound bunker-busting bobs could, in fact, take out the Iranian capability, particularly at Fordow. Do you think that the mission yesterday was successful?
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, so the president, and then following up this morning, Secretary of Defense Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane, went over it. This strike was all about the objectives of knocking out 3 Iranian nuclear sites. It appears to have essentially destroyed them. So this was not about regime change. This was not about bringing an end to Iran's role as a Chinese proxy. It was solely about essentially taking Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan out of the nuclear process for Iran. Because even back to 2016, Donald J. Trump was always very clear Iran was not to have nuclear capability. So, yes, I think it accomplished its mission. Now, people are worried about this or that. Everything else is out of scope. The president was extremely clear this was about taking those 3 facilities out of the equation. Those 3 facilities are out of the equation.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. There are some in the MAGA movement. Oddly enough, those MAGA members who weren't for Donald Trump. They were for Ted Cruz in 2016. those MAGA members who are second-guessing the president. But very clearly, this is not about regime change. It's not about boots on the ground. It's not about endless foreign war where our objectives were never actually clear or where we were lied to about the facts on the ground. I speak, of course, about the war in Iraq, where we were falsely told that the Iraqis had weapons of mass destruction. That was a lie. And we were actually led to believe that Iraq played some role in the attacks on America on 9/11. Another lie. Two lies generated by Vice President Dick Cheney, just in case anybody's forgotten that. I think the facts here were absolutely clear, but I guess the real question for most Americans is what comes next. When I first heard that basically the Minister of Information was very angry and said that there would be consequences, I said to my seatmate flying back from New Orleans on a plane, why is that guy even still able to speak? I guess that this was a much more narrow operation. And the president, who clearly prefers negotiations over confrontation, yet again called on the Iranians, now that they've taken this attack, to come back to the table and try to negotiate peacefully. He's also made it pretty clear that if they don't do so, he's prepared to act again. I think they'll take him a bit more seriously this time. I guess, Colonel Mills, the OPSEC on this really was extraordinary. By that I mean the operational secrecy, no?
It was remarkable. It was well done. It's just a very small core group of planners were involved. Now, Saturday, I was focused on doing a framing for a concrete pour and also doing a quick concrete patch. That was my focus. But everybody was obsessing over B-2s headed for Guam. There's now, I would say, a Donald J. Trump annex or addendum to Sun Tzu's Art of War. Watching bombers in the West, always be careful of bombers coming from the East. So I think Donald J. Trump has just added an annex to the historic chronicles of Sun Tzu and the Art of War. It was brilliant. Deception, very few, great operational security, few knew about it. Everybody was distracted. Everybody was distracted, including the Chinese, which, this really, the big loser in all of this are the Chinese, because Iran, they buy 100% of Iran's oil, and Iran depends on that cash for survival. But, it's priced in renminbi, so the Iranians have to spend all the money they receive at the Chinese company store. That's the only place they can spend it. So this Iran is a proxy of China for terror, for mayhem, for war production, for oil. And this is the real story of the situation.
Yeah, I want to come back to that in just a moment. As we assess what the options for Iran are, my greatest concern, of course, are the number of illegals inside the United States and the potential that we have sleeper cells here that could be activated. Let's listen to Vice President J.D. Vance on that subject.
How concerned is the administration or Iranian proxies could carry out a terrorist attack inside the United States?
Well, unfortunately, Kristen, we know that a lot of people who we don't have full accounting of were let in over the last 4 years under the Biden administration. We know that some of those people were on terrorism watch lists. We feel very confident in our FBI and law enforcement that we're on top of this situation. But yeah, we're looking at this very closely. We're doing everything that we can to keep our people safe. And this is one of the reasons why border security is national security, is if you let a bunch of crazy people into your country, those crazy people can eventually take action. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen and to keep Americans safe.
So first, let's start locally, Colonel Mills. What do you think the odds are that we will see ballistic missiles and drone attacks on U.S. bases within the Middle East? And what are the odds that some of those missiles and drones get through our defense systems?
Well, as far as drones and missile launches, I think the capabilities of the Iranians are severely degraded. They may try against our facilities in the Middle East. I'm not sure it'll work out. I am more concerned about the operatives inside the United States, and we have to remember that the Iranians had generously penetrated the United States government. You have the Rob Malley faction that was pervasive in not just inside the White House, but at State Department, in the intelligence community. You had Asif Rahman, the CIA officer, who within minutes of receiving the Israeli plans last year, immediately handed them to Iran. But there's many more, and I think that really, and I have immense respect for Tulsi Gabbard and the entire team, but she does not yet have her own appointed chief of counterintelligence, and we have just barely begun to clean house. So I think at the DNI, so I think we got a deep state problem. But we have massive Iranian penetration of inside the U.S., and I think that's the greater concern. I mean, even at the FAA, there was an arrest of a person who was working on FAA air traffic control systems who had been a member of the IRGC. How in the world did we get a former member of the IRGC turning the screwdriver on FAA air traffic control system? This means he had access to all the special sensitive air traffic movements, including, at that time, candidate Trump.
If you're just tuning in, folks, we're listening to Colonel John Mills on The Roger Stone Show, and we'll be right back.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Roger Stone.
In these turbulent economic times, with the Iranians threatening now to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, from which almost a quarter of the world's energy flows, which could drive oil to $130 a barrel, and the price per gallon as high as $7 a gallon. With the Federal Reserve absolutely refusing to cut rates despite the fact that the inflation rate is historically low, with Congress refusing to codify the cuts in waste, fraud, and outrageous spending by the U.S. government, now is the time to protect your future. Now is the time to protect your retirement, and to do so with the strength of gold. Right now, you can convert all or part of your cash savings, your IRA, or your 401k to gold or silver. And the folks to do it are the folks at the Colonial Metals Group. Go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/stone or go to freegoldguide.com and find out exactly how. You'll be glad you did.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This shrimp and coconut sauce is divine. What's your secret?
Goya coconut milk.
How does it taste so good?
It's all in that real coconut flavor and that rich, creamy texture.
What about thickeners and added sugars?
None. Just smooth, coconutty goodness.
What can I make with it?
From curries to sweet treats like coconut flan, the possibilities are endless.
Goya coconut milk. Take your cooking to the next level. No question about it. Find it in the Goya section of your local grocery store. If it's Goya, it has to be good.
Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/stone or call 800-747-6589 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold, and it's 100% tax-free.
Test, check 1, 2. You know you need unique New York. You know you need unique New York. Does that sound all right? Ah, that's better. You can always tell something's missing when you get isolated results, like AI that's only right for one of your systems. Get AI that can work across your data and applications. Learn more at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. When it comes to meeting the world's energy needs, more is better. What we mean is our world needs a wide range of energy sources to meet our increasing needs. Just wind or solar won't get us there, as the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. With our growing population and the increasing use of energy-demanding technologies like AI, reliability is key, and the reliability of natural gas is unmatched by wind and solar. That doesn't mean we all can't work together, but natural gas is vital to ensuring we meet our energy needs. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Colonel John Mills, former Director of Cybersecurity Policy Strategy and International Affairs at the U.S. Department of Defense. Colonel Mills is the author of a very lively Substack. It's at Colonel R.E.T. John, Colonel R.E.T., that's for retired, John. Hopefully he will be unretired and serving his nation again soon. But go to Substack.com and check out his Substack. I highly recommend that you subscribe. This is my go-to stop when I want to know what's going on internationally and on military affairs. I cannot commend it to you highly enough. Colonel Mills, we were talking about the Chinese, and of course Iran is I would say almost a proxy for the Chinese. The Chinese get most of their petroleum there. They're also allies of the Russians. Specifically, how do the Chinese and the Russians react to this courageous assault by President Donald Trump to protect America?
Well, let's take Russia first. Russia would not be in the Ukraine war if it wasn't for the war material that Iranian factories make, much of which is actually Chinese product. And the tooling comes from China. So Iran is a huge provider of war material to Russia. So that's huge. For China, I think you have to list out all the Chinese proxies in their worldwide campaign to take out America. And China's been at war with America since 1999's statement on unrestricted warfare against the West. But the proxies are Russia, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, South Africa, and Pakistan. Now, I put in Pakistan. I have now been contacted by the Pakistani embassy. They seem to be interested in my comments on that, and all I can say for Pakistan, if you're on the American camp, start acting like it. That's as simple as that. This is huge because Iran is a absolute state sponsor of terror, the largest in the world. Thousands of Americans have died since the bombing of our embassy and the Marine barracks in 1983 in Beirut. That was all because of Iran. Iran has been waging a war against us, whether we like it or not. This was not about a forever war. This was not about starting a war, but so Iran is a huge proxy in the Middle East. October 7th was all about Iran, who did this on behalf of China. So China loses a proxy. China loses a huge amount of their energy import, and China has to import 50% of their energy. They do not have their own energy. So this is a huge loss, and if the regime collapses, it has nothing to do with American action, has nothing to do with the bombing. If the Iranian people decide to rise up and change regimes, I think it only could possibly get better. I was in the two Gulf Wars, Gulf War I, Gulf War II. Now, we came in we caused mayhem, and we did nothing, and we left, and we got zero out of it. Guess who filled the vacuum? Iran. Well, with the Iranian regime gone, I think things will only get better. The Persians have a wonderful historic history of being well-educated, wealthy, prosperous, and I think the days of Cyrus the Great are returning for Iran once they rid themselves of the regime of the IRGC, the mullahs, and the president. They're a thug regime, and they're total proxy of China.
I want to focus on this question of the Strait of Hormuz, of which almost a quarter of the world's energy flows. I read last night that there were 50 Iranian ships cruising towards the strait. Why can't the U.S., maybe this is a naive question, why can't the U.S. completely disable their Navy? Reagan certainly did it with the Iraqis. How difficult could that actually be?
Well, I don't think it would be difficult. We do have a challenge. Our Navy is struggling. Our Navy is a pittance of what it was during the Reagan years, and we need a couple of strong years under Trump, the third term of Trump, to rebuild our Navy. So we are a little limited in capacity. Now, it is interesting that both Israel and the United States have essentially not attacked the ports, because you attack those ports, you knock out the oil exporting infrastructure. That brings Iran to an immediate halt. But yeah, we could, if required, we could really fire them up real good. We just have a lot of challenges. We need to get our Navy back on track and back to the proper size and resourcing it needs to be.
All right, so final question, the possibility of attacks on U.S. bases or interests or assets in the Middle East. I think we covered the very real danger here in the United States, although I was happy to see an announcement by FBI Director Kash Patel that they are monitoring the known cells. What do you think? We got about a minute and a few seconds. What do you think happens in the region? Do we see a counterattack beyond the counterattack on Israel last night? Do we see an attack on U.S. interests, or are the Iranians afraid to do that?
I think, frankly, the Iranians are out of gas, are largely out of gas. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's unlikely. Iran was largely using three proxies: Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Hamas and Hezbollah are essentially gone, and the Houthis are still viable but severely degraded. So Iran is essentially out of resources, and China is flying an airlift into Iran. Don't know what's going on there, but Russia's kind of backed off. I think Iran is really weakened at this point in time. I'm not sure how much they can do regionally.
All right, I want to thank our guest, Colonel John Mills, and urge you to stay with us here on The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. What do you know about oil and natural gas? You likely associate them with running your car or heating your home. But these two natural resources fuel so much more than that. More than 6,000 consumer products that we rely on every day are made using oil and gas. Before you even step out the door in the morning, you've already used more products made possible because of oil and gas than you realize. From the toothpaste you brush your teeth with, the soap you washed your face with, and the sheets you slept on. Not to mention your makeup, contact lenses, clothes, and shoes. Oil and gas are vital parts of all these products and so many more. Look around and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.